Hey folks, this is the third video that we're going to take a look at using logarithms and their properties. And this is an example video. So if you would go down please to the example numbers 9, 11, and 12. These are the three examples I'd like to take a look at. While you're at it, go ahead and have the last three properties that we went through in video number 2, because we're going to use those properties for these examples. The directions say that we should solve the equation by using exponentials. So the first thing that, if we're looking at example number 9 here, the first thing is I don't like that they've written this with a 10 base. Remember that the common logarithm is never going to write a base. So I'd like to rewrite this first of all. Secondly, if you could think of this number, I realize that this number says 0.01. But if you could think of that as reading a decimal the long way, we would read this decimal the long way as 1/100th. And 1/100th is the same thing as a fraction. So I'm going to rewrite my logarithm. First of all, I'm going to get rid of my 10 base. And secondly, I'm going to write my decimal as a fraction. So I have log of 1/100th. Now, you remember that when I have a rule number 2, we talked about having the like bases. If the logarithm base and the exponential base have the same base, then my answer is just going to be the power, the exponent. And so I know that my logarithm base is a base 10 because it's a common log, and I'd like to rewrite this 1/100th using a base of 10. We know that the number 100 is the same thing as 10 squared. So what I'm going to do is rewrite the 100 as a 10 squared. So now this is log base 10 of 1/10 squared. Back in one of the previous sections, we know that if I can take a number that's on the bottom of a fraction to the top of a fraction, then I can do that by just simply using negative powers. So the next thing that we'll do is we'll take that number that's on the bottom up to the top. That'll make it into a 10 to the negative second power. And now I have log base 10 of 10 to the negative second power. Use rule 2, and this is just simply a negative 2 that's left over. Now let's go and look at example number 11 in the same way. Once again, I don't like how it's written. We should not be writing log base e. We should be writing the natural log correctly. So the first thing I want to do is I just simply want to write it correctly. The natural log of 1. You remember in our rules, rule number 1 said that any log of 1 is what? Right, it's 0. So this is going to be 0 because any log of 1, whether it's a log base e or any other log base, any log of 1 is going to equal 0. All right, let's go over to example number 12. We haven't seen this in this particular section, but we did see this in a previous section. You remember that I told you that in this chapter, we're going to take all of our roots and rewrite them using powers. So that's the very first thing I want to do, is I want to rewrite this using powers. So this will be log base 6 of 6 to the half power. Once again, I'm using rule 2 here, and so rule 2 says that whenever my bases are alike, that I'm just going to be left over with my power, and my power in this case is a 1/2.